Hello, this is Stephen Nojiri, and this is another Daienji tradition video. Now, this is actually the first video in a series of videos in which we're going to visit Nagoya City, specifically Nakamura-ku, or the Nakamura ward of Nagoya City. And Nagoya City is in Aichi Prefecture, so we're going to start these videos by looking at some maps to make sure that everybody knows where we're at. So if you look at this map, thank you Google Maps, you'll see where Nagoya is located. Now many of you already know where it's at, but for those that don't know, this is where we're going. And then the subsequent slides we're going to zoom in and you're going to see exactly where we're going. But the first couple videos of this series we're going around the Nakamura ward, and we're going to stop along specific sites along the way, and I'll provide some history and some photos and some additional commentary. Also, fair warning, this first video is going to the Hibitsu area of Nakamura ward, which is a Nojiri heavy area. So for those of you that don't mind me talking about the family, then you'll enjoy this video. I know some of you don't like it when I start talking about Nojiri a lot. In that case, I'm going to mention Nojiri a lot in this first video, but I still think that you should watch it because I think that you'll like the video nonetheless. So for this video we're going to work Western style, meaning that we're going to go left to right, because I know for most of you that's what you're used to, so we'll go left to right. Now in the previous slide, you saw where Nagoya was located in terms of between, how close to Kyoto and Osaka and how far away from Tokyo, etc. But now we're going to zoom in. These maps are zooming in. So the map on the far left, you'll see Nagoya, and you'll see a red arrow pointing to a little red circle area, and that is the Nakamura ward. But now this area of Nagoya City, this whole area, Nagoya, is what used to be called Owari. And this is where Oda Nobunaga comes from, Toyotomi Hideyoshi comes from. This is this area, but specifically we're going to zoom in onto the Nakamura ward. So we're going to Owari. We're basically going to Owari. Now, in the middle picture, you'll see a red arrow pointing to the Nakamura ward, but you'll also see a green arrow pointing to the Atsuda ward. And the reason I'm clocking that now is because in a future video, we're going to go to the Atsuda Shrine, which is where the Imperial Sword is kept. But I wanted you to just, from this point early on, I want you to get an idea of where Nakamura ward is and where Atsuda ward is. Now on the map to the right, you're going to see an orange arrow pointing to Kiyosu. And you can also see Kiyosu appearing above the Nakamura ward in the middle map too. Kiyosu is where Oda Nobunaga is from. This is where he started. So you'll see that Nakamura ward is just south of Kiyosu. And Kiyosu and Nakamura ward are north of Atsuda. So you get an idea of where, in space, where these things are located. Also in the blue, I want you to see the blue arrows are pointing to a river, and that's the Shonai River. Now, Shonai is not really a Japanese word. It's pretty much assumed that it's an old indigenous word, possibly an Imishi or Ainu word. But the reason I'm pointing out the Shonai River is just a little bit of geographic history. The Shonai River is actually moving toward the northwest, and over millions of years of slowly eating away on the far bank and depositing soil on the closer bank. So it's eating away at the western bank and it's depositing soil on the eastern bank, and over millions of years that's what formed the ground for the Nakamura ward. So a little bit of geology. For this video we're going to be covering sites 1, 2, and 3. In a next video we're going to be covering sites 4, 5, and 6. So the sites we're going to be covering is Daienji, which is a Buddhist temple located on the edge of the site of Hibitsu Castle ruins, which was an old Nojiri castle. And on the grounds of Daienji you will find the old Nojiri grave. There's multiple graves in one grave. So you know how Japanese graves work. There's one grave site for the family, and then there can be multiple little stupas for individual people, etc., etc. But it's one big grave that holds several individuals, right? This is very common Japanese grave style. So the old Nojiri grave is there at Daienji Temple. So when the Nojiri used to be in Owari, this was the Nojiri grave site. The second site we're going to go to is Jotokuji, which is another Buddhist temple, and there's some small Shinto shrines in the back. We'll look at them, but that's located on the ruins of another old Nojiri castle. So the castles are no longer there, but these temples are located where the castles used to be. And the third site we're going to visit is a Suwa shrine. It's a small Suwa shrine that is said to have been established by the Nojiri when the Nojiri used to rule this area. In a future video, the next video basically, we will go to Toyokuni Shrine, which is a shrine for Toyotomi Hideyoshi. We will go to Toyotomi's birthplace, and we'll go to his cousin Kato Kiyomasa's birthplace as well. Now before we continue on, I wanted to show you guys this clip. There's a text called Owari Kojoshi, and it was the original text is written in 1708, but this copy you see on your screen is a version from 1857. And anyway, so it lists the two castles that we're going to visit. Well, we're not going to visit the castles. We're going to visit the temples that are where the castles used to be. But these are the two castles, and in the blue arrow it says Hibitsu. So this is where we're going. We're going to the Hibitsu area of the Nakamura ward of Nagoya City of Aichi Prefecture. The information on this page also corroborates with oral tradition and the documents that you can find in the Hibitsu area. This document, the important thing to know is that this document also corroborates that these castles were already ruins by the 1700s. And this is in keeping in everything we know about Nojiri history, because we know that the Nojiri began leaving the Owari area in the 1400s, and by the 1600s the Nojiri had pretty much vacated the area. So these castles are presumably already in a state of ruin by the 1500s. So there was a time, 1300s, 1400s, where the Nojiri were lords of the Hibitsu area, but into the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s, these castles are fallen into ruin. The Nojiri are no longer in charge, and they've moved out of the area. So we will see the temples that are there, but the castles are long gone. Okay, so if you look at your screen, what you're seeing, I'll have multiple photographs. So Nakamura Ward basically looks like this. So this picture on the far left, this is as soon as you come out of the station. So there's the Honji station. As soon as you come up and out of the ground, that's what you see. So boom, there you go. Nakamura Ward is basically that picture. It starts off along the major roads. There's businesses, multiple level buildings, etc., etc. Pretty standard Japanese street. All right, small town. Nagoya City is a good sized town, but this is kind of like the suburbs of Nagoya City, for lack of a better term. Anyway, you get off the yellow line, and here you go. You got to walk. So you zigzag through the neighborhood. So once you leave the main street area, it quickly becomes neighborhood, right? Just houses, hedgerows, plants, small streets. Very quiet, very relaxing walk, actually. This is not a tourist destination by any stretch, so it's only locals. It's really, really peaceful walk, actually. So you zigzag through the neighborhood, and you'll eventually find your way to Daienji. So eventually you arrive at Daienji Temple. Here we go. This is what the front gate looks like. So again, Daienji means Daien Temple. The G on the end means temple. You can say Daien Temple. You can say Daienji. You can even say Daienji Temple, but saying Daienji Temple is a little bit repetitive because G means temple, but it doesn't really matter. Daienji. This temple actually goes back to the 1200s when it was first built. And it's changed hands many times. It's been run by a handful of different Buddhist schools. It is currently run by a Pure Land school out of Mie Prefecture, and that school is called Takara Shinshu. So they are the ones who currently run this temple. This is also the temple that houses the old Nojiri gravesite. This temple actually sits on the edge of the area that used to be the castle. So that castle ruin of Hibitsu Castle is no longer there. It's the castle ruins now is there's just a small patch of grass, and then there's the Hibitsu neighborhood. So basically the neighborhood is built where the castle used to be. And now also remember, this castle is not the kind of castle you're thinking of when you watch videos of Japan and you see multi-storied castle keeps. This would have been more like a large fortified mansion. So when they say castle, this is a castle from the 1300s and from the 1400s. Again, it wouldn't have been a giant Himeji castle looking structure because that's from the 1600s. This would have been a castle appropriate to the 13 and 1400s. So think of a fortified mansion and not a towered castle. But this temple is located right on the edge of where the castle used to be, but like I said, the castle where the castle was is now neighborhoods. Here's some pictures to give you some more perspective. This is the walkway up to the temple. This is the marker. So to the left of the walkway is this patch of grass with a marker of where Hibitsu Castle used to be, and also letting you know that the Hibitsu Castle Lord, which is the Nojiri grave sites, are located here. Further up on the left, there's a modern sign detailing the location of the castle and the graves, etc., etc., etc. If you're at the gate and you look to the left over the little fence, you can see the temple's bells, the bell housing's roof. And also just take a moment to actually look at the gate itself and appreciate the Japanese work, the woodwork, the sort of craftsmanship of the woodwork. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of videos of just me walking up to the entryway and walking the entryway to get you so that you can get a proper perspective. All right, I hope those videos helped you with the perspective of basically you're just walking through the neighborhood and then you sort of make a turn and then suddenly there's the temple. And then walking up to the temple, get an idea. So now that when you walk through the gate, this is your viewpoint. You see the main temple with the blue arrow. That's the main temple. The old Nojiri graves are to the left of the temple, right there, western side of the temple, western side of the entrance to the main temple. To the right, which would be the east, that way there's administrative offices and living quarters for the temple attendant. Very nice person, by the way, very nice person. And like I said, the old Nojiri graves are marked by the red arrow. There's also a graveyard. If you go to the Nojiri graves and hang a left, there's a graveyard back that way. Now we're not going to look at the graveyard of other people because it's just not appropriate. But you would know there's more graves that way because it is a Buddhist temple it's a Pure Land sect temple, and one of the key functions especially of a Pure Land sect temple, most Buddhist temples in general, but specifically a Pure Land sect temple, is to house graveyards. So there's a big graveyard over to the left. Also, now where you see this tree and this bush, if you cut a left there, that leads you to the bell and the bell housing. So hopefully that video of walking from the gate up to the gravesite gives a perspective of the size and the layout. But this is the gravesite. The larger Buddhist grave marker, so the stupa, the Buddhist reliquary, the Buddhist grave site, you can basically, any time that you see these stacks of shapes, they represent the elements and it's a Buddhist grave marker. So the One on the left is from the 1300s, and the one on the right is from the 1400s. And they belong to two different Nojiri who were lords of castles in the area. So the one on the left, the 1300s, is the lord of the castle, which is where this temple was located. And the one on the right, the smaller one, is the lord of a castle a little north of here. We're going to visit later in the video. Or we're going to visit the temple where the old castle used to be later in the video. I also want to say special thanks to Daienji and Nagoya City for recognizing the importance of this site and taking care of it. The Nojiri graves here have actually been clocked by Nagoya City as being of historical importance, and for them, the reason they say this is because they're the oldest stone markers that are dated in the Nagoya area. So they take care of this, especially, I think it was the 50s or the 60s, there was a project to really sort of clean up, because the area was a little overgrown, and they cleaned the area up, and eventually they put out the signs like that we saw earlier in the video, etc. So thank you to Daienji and to Nagoya City for doing that. But also the red arrows, I want to point out, you can see why I use the Mitsudomoe crest and why I put it in my Nojiri logo. It's the specific line of Nojiri using this crest goes back about 1,000 years, since the 1100s, and it signifies a Genji origin out of the Nagano prefecture. So this helps distinguish this particular line of Nojiri from other Nojiri lines. Now because there's a couple different Nojiri lines. Some of them are interrelated, some of them not really. But whenever I'm talking about Nojiri, right? When I'm talking about Nojiri, I'm talking about the Genji Nojiri line. And so this Owari grave, this grave in Owari, is the Genji Nojiri during the 13 and 1400s. So, and this is still why to this day we use this crest, because it's the same line. So hopefully, the reason I'm pointing this out is because I want you guys to understand that even in the present day, people still do things that are connected to the past. Like, we still use this crest because that's been the crest, the main crest signifying a particular line of a particular origin for since the 1100s. And just a few more pictures of the grave. You can see on the, a little close-up of the crest. And in case you are interested, this is what the gravesite looks like from one of the sides. You can see just giving you some more perspective of what it actually looks like in 3D space. Some more aspects of the temple. You can there's an old and sacred pine tree on the temple grounds. It's got bars holding the limbs up, etc., etc. The old bell, the bell's housing. So you can see the housing around the bell, and then on the bottom center picture you can see the bell itself. The bell itself actually has the Nembutsu inscribed on it. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida. The Nembutsu is inscribed on the bell, so when you ring the bell, it's considered equal to chanting homage to Amida Buddha. So anyway, there we go. And lastly, before we head on to the next one, just a good picture of the main hall of Daienji. This is the temple. Check out the lions on the roof. Usually you get so used to seeing like the fish on the roof and stuff, etc. But this one actually has two lions up there playing and protecting the temple. So okay, so that's a brief look at Daienji. Next we're going to go to Jotokuji Temple. It is a Nichiren, which is Lotus Sutra sect temple with a large graveyard. The graveyard area is roughly near where that second Nojiri castle used to be located. But the ruins of that site were used as fill for the foundation of Nagoya Station. So Nagoya Station, the big place where all the buses and all the trains and the Shinkansen trains and stuff, part of the foundation of Nagoya Station is some of the ruins from that castle. So that second Nojiri castle is gone. Like there's no ruins, and literally the dirt and a lot of the rock fill was used for the foundation of Nagoya Station. So there's really nothing to see, but we're going to go anyway. Let's go. So the temple, Jotokuji, is established in 1360. That's what the record shows. And to the left is this, the sign basically saying it was formed in 1360. Now, the bottom picture here is we're sort of standing, so we've just walked through the gate and we're standing straight. The main hall is straight on, so you can see the temple bell to the left and the main hall straight on. There's some other stuff to the right. But if you cut a hard right here where this pine tree is, you go that way, there's the graveyard. Now, we're not going to look at the graveyard because, again, just pictures of other people's graves is not an appropriate thing really to show, especially if any of you guys are familiar with like Japanese television and stuff. Whenever they do like a news story or whatever, they always blur out the graves and stuff. It's just not appropriate to show. So, but just know there's a big graveyard over there, and that is where approximately the second Nojiri castle, the 1400s one, used to be. This is a rough layout of where the main hall is. You've got the main hall structure. So number 1, 2, 3. So if you can imagine, I don't have a video for this, so I'm trying to place these photographs with a little diagram to give you an idea of how it looks. If you're facing one direction, that's what you see, and if you turn to the right, that's what you'll see, and you turn a little bit more to the right, that's what you'll see. And that's roughly the main grounds. This is what you see on the screen here. And then, like I said, then you have some bathrooms to the left. There's a bell tower and a graveyard. So this is pretty much what you'll see. And of course, you can also see the offering boxes out front. Basically, you drop a coin in there and pay a homage. But again, unfortunately, I don't have a video to share with you, but this is kind of just a rough map. So at the bottom of the screen, you'll see where the gate is. So there's a small little picture of the gate. You go through that gate. Bell on the left, which you guys saw in a previous slide. Bell on the left, graveyard to the right, and then the last slide is right there, 1, 2, 3. So it's roughly the layout. Now you'll see in a red box that it says little shrines. So there's actually an interesting little bit of Shinto shrines that are sort of tucked behind the main hall. So let's take a look at those. So if you are staring at that first building, the one I labeled 1, and you go around the left, you cut around the left side, behind the main hall, going around on the left side, you see this pagoda stupa marked with the Lotus Sutra mantra. Basically, it has syllables on the body of this stupa which has the Lotus Sutra mantra. So when you get to that, cut a right, and when you turn right, you'll see this. On the left, there's a little dragon god shrine on the left, and there's also a series of tori on the right. So if you can go straight on to the little dragon god shrine, or you can follow these tori around the building, and as you follow them around, you'll see a little red building up on a rise. So if you continue going and approach that shrine, and what you'll find is this very, very beautiful, pleasant Inari shrine. And the interesting thing about this Inari shrine is it has Buddhist motif. From the decorations on the lintel of the actual shrine to the fact that the donation box actually has the triple gem, the Buddhist triple gem. So Buddha, Dharma, Sangha represented as 3 jewels with flames coming off of them. So this is kind of more like what used to be prior to the Meiji Restoration, where Buddhism and Shinto weren't strongly separated, but they fused together. So this is a really nice little Inari shrine tucked away back here. So okay, so now we've looked at Jotokuji. So now we're going to a Suwa shrine, and this is a nice little, it's not a big shrine, it's a little shrine, but it's really nice. So let's go. So, but before we head off, let's look at this map because I want to remind you of where we're going. So we started off at Hunjin Station. That was that first picture where you come up out of the ground and you just see the street, right? So Hunjin Station, then we walked, the line shows a straight line, but you got to zigzag. We zigzagged through the neighborhoods of Hibitsu to get to Daienji. And then we walked north to get to Jotokuji. Now what we're going to do is we're going to zigzag through the neighborhood southwest to get to the Suwa Shrine, which is that third star, so the blue line, where the blue line ends to the west. That's where we're going. It's actually a very short walk. Maybe this map makes it look big, but it's not really big at all. So we're going to the Suwa Shrine, and so according to oral history and the tradition of the area, the Suwa Shrine was built by the Nojiri when the Nojiri used to run the area. And I will do a video specifically on the Suwa Daimyojin deity in the near future. But for now, I'll basically say that Suwa Daimyojin is considered, is basically Okuninushi's son. But I'll do a proper video on that later. There is, unfortunately, no hard evidence that this shrine was built by the Nojiri, but it's the oral tradition, and it's also the tradition of the area that's handed down. So in other words, if you ask people, like ask the old people in the area, they'll say, oh, that the Nojiri built this when they were lords in the 1300s, right? But there's no hard evidence that I'm aware of exist to definitely say, yes, beyond a doubt, the Nojiri established this. But it is whatever, it's the belief. But it does make sense, though, because the Nojiri came into Owari from Nagano, and Suwa Daimyojin is if not the major deity of the Nagano area. So Suwa Daimyojin is a very, very important deity from Nagano. So since the Nojiri came from Nagano, it's very plausible that they established a Suwa Daimyojin shrine. There is also a book called Nakamura-ku no Rekishi, which means a history of the Nakamura ward, and it's done by the Aichi Prefecture's local history publication society. And in that book, they conclude that the Nojiri built the Suwa shrine, and they assume that the oral tradition is true. So this is the Suwa shrine of the Nakamura area, Hibitsu area. It enshrines Suwa Daimyojin deity. It's a very small shrine, and it's next to a park for kids to play. Now the park, if you're looking at the shrine with the tori, the park is to the left. You're looking straight on to the shrine, park is to the left. I didn't take any videos of the park because when I was taking these pictures, there was actually kids playing at the park. So it would be inappropriate to take pictures of the park because it's kids, it's weird. Okay, but just know that there's a park to the left of the shrine. And the shrine has a very community center vibe. It's in the middle of the neighborhood. It's next to a playground. It's really chill and very nice spot. So as you can see in the picture, the tori is actually made of stone, and in front of the shrine, so the thing you're looking at right here isn't actually the shrine. What you're looking at is the main platform where events are held. You also see a small offering box to the bottom right. You put your coin in there and pay homage. But this that building that you see mainly in the picture, that is the main platform. That's where ceremonies are held, events are held. The actual shrine is behind that. So let's take a look at that. So to the left, not where the park, not all the way to the left where the park is, but sort of around to the left of the structure, you can actually see the actual shrine. So in front is the main platform, but behind it is the actual Suwa shrine. So in case you're unfamiliar, many shrines are set up this way. The actual shrine is further back, and then there's a event platform, a ceremonial platform out front. In a future video, we're going to visit some Hachiman shrines, and you'll see the same thing. There's a big, elaborate, glorious event ceremony platform out front, and then like up some stairs in the background is the actual temple. So this is a pretty typical setup for a shrine. The entrance to the shrine, however, is on the other side, not the left, it's on the right side. So if you go around the right side, you will see there's an arrow pointing to the actual, this is the actual entrance to the shrine. Also in the foreground, you'll see a kusanoki, a camphor tree, and I want you to note the shimenawa with the shide hanging from it. So there's a series of kusanoki trees in this area, and they all have shimenawa with shide on them because they're all considered sacred. But we're going to talk about those more in another slide. So here you go. So this is the shrine to the Suwa Daimyojin, located in the Nakamura ward. And I'll just leave the screen on this picture for a couple seconds, but that's the shrine. Here are some specific pictures. The first picture is more of a close-up of walking up to the actual entrance. Then you'll see the lion guards. Lion on the left, mouth closed. Lion on the right, mouth is open. Let's step back for a minute and talk about those Kusunoki trees, the camphor trees, that are on the Suwa Shrine grounds. But it's not just the Suwa Shrine grounds. So yes, these Kusunoki are considered sacred. They're marked with the Shimenawa and the Shide. But it turns out that this area is actually keen on keeping track of its sacred trees. So any tree, certain trees considered special, important, sacred, they actually are all individually numbered. So for example, the Kusunoki, I say on the right, it's actually on the left. The Kusunoki and the camphor tree on the picture to the left is actually tree number 94. And then on the picture to the right, under at the center of the screen, you'll see two more. Actually, I say two more, but there's actually three markers. So, but there's actually three more Kusunoki trees in this picture, and you can see the white markers numbering them. So I believe the one farthest away is 91, and then the one in mid is 92, and then the one closer is 93, and then the one in the picture on the left is 94. And they literally, each one of these sacred and or important trees is actually, they keep track of them specifically. They have their own numbers. So number 91, 92, 93, and 94 are on the Suwa Shrine grounds. Now this trip that I took, where I got these pictures from, this trip was actually taken during cherry blossom season, right? Hanami, during the whole cherry blossom viewing time period. It was actually peak season, but the Nakamura Ward is not a tourist destination. So there was like no tourist. It was very chill, very quiet, no crowds, etc., etc., etc. The weather was beautiful. It was cool and breezy, but sunny. So beautiful. Such a great trip to the Nakamura Ward. Anyway, I figured I would include this picture of some sakura growing on the Suwa Shrine grounds. So this sakura was growing on the Suwa Shrine grounds next to the southeast corner, which is next to Kusunoki number 94, which we saw in a previous picture. And it is just beautiful, isn't it? And so that ends this video. Hopefully you guys got a sense of the time and spacing of the Hibitsu area of the Nakamura Ward, and hopefully I didn't irritate anybody too much by talking about so much Nojiri stuff. But I mean, this is the history of the Hibitsu area. And in the next video, we're going to do 4, 5, and 6, which is the Toyokuni Shrine, Toyotomi Hideyoshi's birthplace, Kato Kiyomasa's birthplace, and then in subsequent videos we're going to talk about Atsura Shrine, Nagoya Castle. We'll also do probably maybe something with Kamakura, perhaps, like the Hachiman Shrine and Hasedera Temple, stuff like that, etc., etc., etc. It kind of depends on your guys' responses to the videos. So I'm definitely going to follow up with the 4, 5, 6, the Toyokuni Shrine, and the two birthplaces. And I may either do, like I said, I'll do Atsura and Nagoya. I may actually attach Atsura and Nagoya to the Toyokuni Shrine video. We'll see. But depending on if you guys like these videos or not, we can do more. If not, that's, we'll just move on. But the picture in the video is a sneak peek, right? This is what you're looking at is Toyotomi Hideyoshi's birthplace. And the shrine, or the temple, the enshrinement and the temple that is located on the site. It'll make sense during the video. But this is where Toyotomi was born. Think about that. You're looking at the picture of where Toyotomi Hideyoshi was born. I don't know. I find that very fascinating. Anyway, that's the end of this video. And hopefully it was very interesting for you guys. Please let me know in the comments. Please leave some kind of comment. If you thought the video was interesting, please let me know. If you thought it was not, also let me know. I need some of that feedback to know what kind of videos to produce for you guys. Okay, thank you.